Hello, and as always, I would like to welcome you to the Laramy-K Optician Works Training Center, where this week we are going to just head right over to the whiteboard and pick up right where we left off last week. Last week, using Vogel's rule, we had determined D1, or what the front base curve would be for the prescriptions given. We ended up with a +3, a +5, and a +7. Now, since we have D1 and we have DL, we can solve for D2, or the back curve or curves we're going to put on this lens to create this power. Let's take a look at our -5, -2 a little bit closer one more time. If we're looking at that, if I have my front base curve, if I clocked that in the perfect world as a concept or an idea, I'd end up with a +3. If I flip that lens over and I look at my shallower green curve, I need to determine what I would need to put there if I have a +3 on the front to end up at a -5. 90 degrees away, my red band, the steepest curve, the strongest curve, the one with the shortest radius, the thickest edge, is going to be my -7. So let's figure out how we would determine that. You may very well just look at this and see it. That's great. Super. I'd have to obviously go -3 to get to 0, and then an additional 5 diopters to reach my -5. So I'd have a -8. Great. If you can just see that, that's wonderful. If that doesn't quite work for you, we can think of it as, we know that a -5 combined with an unknown is going to end up at a +3. So if I take my -5 and I do the opposite, I take my -5 and I subtract 3, I end up at -8. So whether you can see it or you need to do a little bit of math, our toric curve, the curve that will create the shallower curve, give us our -5, our weakest power on the lens. Our spherical portion is going to be a -8. For this prescription, if I have a -175 and I take away my 5, I end up with a -675 for my toric curve, the one that will create this portion of my lens power. On my plus, it works just a little bit different. I can simply take my +150, subtract 7, I end up at a -550. We're not done. Those curves are only going to give us our spherical portion. Now we need to come in and grind that steeper curve 90 degrees apart on the back of it and determine what that power is going to be. How do we do that? We look at our cylinder value. That is where our cylinder comes from. Our cross curve to create our -7 power is going to be 2 diopters steeper than our -8. I am going to have a -10. 2 diopters difference. To create a -275, I'm going to need an additional full diopter stronger. I'm going to have a -775. 1 difference between the two. I hate using that word. I once said it's as simple as that. Nothing is simple in this stuff, but you can see where this comes from. For my plus 0.25 in my other power, my -550 combined with my -125, I'm going to have a -675. And again, that looks and acts a little bit different because this is a plus prescription as opposed to a minus. So there we have solving for D2 when we have DL and D1. You may need to run through this a few times. You may just see it. You may need to think about it a little bit more. Go back to looking at the actual lens itself and thinking about it. Next week, we're going to talk a whole lot more about the actual creation of these curves. I'm going to show you that in action, and we're going to talk a little bit about where thickness comes from. So until then, watch it again, see if you get it, and I will see you next week. Thanks for watching. If you are watching this on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. If you're watching this on Facebook, please share it with some other folks. Thanks.